everybody. Welcome. This session is titled The Intersection of School and After School. How do we support each other? This session is from now until around 11 a.m. and we have CEUs that are pending for social workers for the amount of 1 hour. The information describing this session is different than what was placed on the screen that you may have observed. So what we plan to do is to discuss how after-school programs are available to partner with schools and support students. This workshop will be focusing on how after-school will reach kids and help them to their full potential, how a relationship can be formed between the school system and the after-school programs, and how the after-school programs can provide additional resources and facilities to engage students. Then we will also touch a little bit on ESSER funds and how they will fill the gaps in expanded learning opportunities. So with that, we understand if by chance this is the wrong session, feel free to move on to another session at this time. We have two presenters, myself and also Susan Gamble. Susan Gamble is the director of the West Virginia Statewide Network. And the statewide network is through West Virginia University Extension Service. The network works to support the capacity and sustainability of after-school and summer learning programs across West Virginia. Susan builds partnerships with education leaders, elected officials, businesses, and other stakeholders. She was awarded tenure in 2004 and promoted to the full extension professor in 2018 with West Virginia University. She has a master's of social work and public administration and a doctorate of education in higher education administration. Her interests for outreach and research include youth development, after-school literacy, and summer learning. Welcome, Susan. Additionally, I'm the other presenter. I am working for the West Virginia Department of Education Office of Student Support and Wellbeing. I am a 21st Century Community Learning Center coordinator, and I work with partners and school systems across the state to provide high-quality after-school programs. Previously, I worked in WVU Extension Service as a professor, providing education programming to youth in West Virginia. I'm also on the board for the Statewide After School Network, also a board member of the Kanawha County Health Science and Technology Academy, and the Education Elevators, which is a mentoring program for youth at risk, primarily in Kanawha County, but also in the Eastern Panhandle. And I also am partnering with a network called Empowers that is committed to support female students in STEM. So welcome, everyone. I appreciate all your assistance as we try to go through this program. And now that all my communication devices are working, I'm really excited. So first of all, what is 21st Century Community Learning Centers? It is an after-school program that is funded through the federal government through the Nina M. Lowry 21st Century Community Learning Center Competitive Grant Program. Its goals are primarily focused in two areas. One is to help youth at risk of academic failure to overcome that through academic supports and enrichment programs, and then also to engage families of those children on how to support their children's academic success. The after-school programs work collaboratively with school systems and the parents through effective communications. They do data sharing and resources to identify and support students in after-school programs. These after-school programs are based on the needs of the community to assist those students to improve their academic performance. Typically, grants received are $220,000 annually for up to 5 years for grantees. And it's an annual competition process, which is fairly competitive. And now, Susan, see if you
Hi, good morning, everybody. Sherry, thanks so much for getting us started. And unfortunately, I can't get my camera to turn on. I'm not sure if it's part of the system or what, but we're so glad to have all of you with us this morning talking.
Can you hear Susan? Oh, let's try it again, Susan. I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Okay, let's try that. It said I was being muted by the moderator.
Hi, everyone. You can hear me. Can you hear Susan? Huh.
Okay, Sherry, let's try again.
Okay, I'm going to click off, go remove. I'm going to add you back, Susan. Where'd you go? Great.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry. Okay, I keep getting turned off, Sherry.
Susan, try again.
Okay. All right, let's see if that works now. I keep talking and it was turning me off. So hopefully I'm good to go. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us this morning. We're glad to have you with us learning about after school. I have the great fortune to partner with Sherry on a lot of different efforts around after school. So appreciative of this opportunity for us to co-present today. The West Virginia Statewide After School Network is one of 50 statewide after school networks across the country. We are funded in part by the Mott Foundation out of Flint, Michigan, and work to really help raise awareness and talk about the importance of high quality after school and summer learning time programs. I think definitely during the pandemic, a lot of awareness has helped to come to light around programs and the important need for access for essential workers, for youth to have those additional supports to connect their learning to what's happening during the school day. And so at the After School Network, we just do a lot of advocacy and quality and sustainability efforts to help support programs across West Virginia. So that could be us working with programs like 21st Century at the Department of Ed, also child care centers that serve school-age youth, Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, school-based programs. If there are programs going on, we're trying to, at the network, work to help connect with those programs and, again, just really raise awareness around the importance of having access to those programs here in West Virginia.
What we would like to do now is to talk a little bit about the opportunity. Why would higher education be interested in an after-school program, or perhaps formal teachers and educators? Well, after school is there to support the education process of the student. And when that happens, in the after-school program, there's more time to engage the student in learning activities that they actually may be more interested in. After school can identify those students that may be very interested in art and theater and bring in community partners to help encourage that. And by doing that, in theater, they're learning to read, they're learning to display emotions, to understand what emotions are, and how all of those things can work together to increase their knowledge and understanding of life, as well as the actual content of the theater script. There's also opportunities for different social, emotional, and interpersonal connections, especially if the staff are teachers from the school that they attend. There's an opportunity for the students to connect more firmly and attach themselves in a more personal way with the teachers, that they see the teachers as people caring about what the student is doing. There's opportunities for meals and physical activities, as well as mental health. Other unique things that after-school programs do is they are in a unique position to connect more closely families to the educational process and the system. Often a lot of the families that we serve as 21st Century do not necessarily have really good and positive attitudes towards the school system. So this could be a bridge of sort to bring everyone together to focus on truly what's most important, which is the student learning and achieving. And then again, there are lots of potentially additional spaces and resources from community partners such as libraries, the Extension Service, museums, parks, faith-based organizations, funders such as that can bring resources to enhance students' academic achievements. So you may start to understand how schools can actually benefit by having an after-school program in their school or in their community. It helps reach the students and reach them through new resources that can help the teachers engage in students in hands-on learning, different types of learning that they may not have time to do in the classroom. We can expand services, SEL supports, character education, bring in social workers or counselors and family programming to, again, support that child, because we all want them to become successful adults engaged in activities that support that community. And I think what's also is very important is students are no longer latchkey kids or being watched by an older sibling, that they are in a program for working families that they will be safe, they will receive a meal, and they will receive homework help, tutoring, and other enrichment programming. There can be also specialized support. When you communicate an after-school program, staff communicates with the staff within the school, we can identify those specific needs of the student and bring in tutoring and other supports to help those students be successful and catch up. Same way with special needs. I know with the SOUL program, which is a summer program funded, funding received from the Department of Ed to the school districts, school counties, that they are offering summer programming for children all across the state. And many of them that I visited have a special needs teachers for special needs students, giving them an opportunity to experience a summer programming. Well, let's see if I can. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, Sherry's getting that finished queued up. We wanted to spend a little bit of time today talking about some of the American Rescue Plan funding that is eligible for after school and summer learning programs. There is a large opportunity with American Rescue Plan funding through a variety of ways to support after school and summer learning, but certainly the ESSER 2 and then, of course, the ESSER 3 dollars is a great opportunity. At the district level, there has been, as many of you are probably familiar with, set-asides around learning recovery for after school and summer, and then also those dollars are coming as well to the state level. And I think, some decisions are still being made, some about how those are going to be distributed. But we did want to elevate today that there is specific set-aside dollars for summer, for after school, for learning recovery, and the importance of considering to partner with community-based programs that are already in so many of our communities in terms of, thinking about leveraging whether it's space that they have or staff that they have, or partnering together to increase communications and really build increased supports for students during out of school time to think about what is happening and helping to increase those connections during the school day. Sherry, if you want to go on to the next slide, just in terms of thinking about those dollars with, we had some opportunities, for example, this past spring where we gave out some small grants through the After School Network for programs to build increased communications with school systems, and things that happened with that were in working to engage increased tutoring for students, or to hire people to serve as a liaison to help do some better assessing of students and how their schoolwork was going, and helping them to provide those additional supports in the after school hours of what they may need to practice or work on more, whether that be related to reading or math, or, were there concerns about having enough access to food in the home, those sorts of things. So Sherry and I are happy to talk with any of you about these sorts of things at the end of the session or further on of some of those supports and how they could work. But we did just want to, again, just briefly touch on those and really think about how these funds can best be utilized in West Virginia to expand partnerships and capacity in order to increase access for youth and increase the number of youth that we are serving within local communities, and partnering with local organizations to provide ongoing sustainable opportunities, which are some great opportunities with this programming. And to really, for us, with this influx of funding, to think about what are our true needs and how we continue to build upon the capacities and qualities of the types of supports being provided with, different things such as life skill development, social emotional support, college and career exposure, and increasing family engagement. That's another tremendous opportunity where after school has a lot of connections with families as youth are being dropped off, maybe as parents go to work in the morning, even before they go to school, or a lot of our programs are operating in those after school hours, to think about having those opportunities to provide increased supports for families and help build increased connections to schools with families. Thinking about partnering to address learning loss. Of course, we all know that, we continue to be concerned about our youth as we work to go through recovery from COVID-19, and how ESSER dollars can be utilized to support out-of-school time programming, increasing access to existing after-school and summer learning programs, and partnering with local organizations, as I mentioned, to offer programming, intentionally embedding long-term program and supports to provide mental health and well-being supports to students, and then to assess learning loss and supports by creating the enriching environments that we know that our after-school programs can build and help support youth, as there's so many caring adults and relationships that happen in after school programs. And again, it's just really that opportunity to build relationships, support academics, and really, as Sherry has mentioned, think about, what does that youth want to do with their future. And I think especially with these dollars, oftentimes when we think of after school, we think of elementary grades, but we have a lot of programs that are in middle and high schools, but there is a large need to increase access and increase the number of those programs. And again, this funding provides that opportunity to think outside the box and to think about where do those programs need to be expanded, and how we provide increased access to services.
You're starting to see that after-school programs can provide a unique value to not only the students that they serve, but to education as a whole. Not only do they improve grades and for students, they can help the students reach their full potential. It can offer them an understanding of different career pathways that are available. It can also reinforce that classroom learning if there's a strong connection between the school and the after-school program. I know several of our programs will put forth together a communication package. They meet on a weekly basis with teachers, or the teachers will send information to the program director of the after-school site saying, please help Henrietta work on her phonetics, or all of our fourth graders or third graders are working on the multiplication tables. Could you perhaps do some of these games that would reinforce their learning of their multiplication tables? So those are just quick examples of things that can reinforce classroom learning. If they're doing a session on geology, again, after-school programs can offer either a speaker from our USGS can come in, or someone from a local university can come in, or even a local rock enthusiast could come in and do a presentation and do hands-on learning with these students. Again, programs established in that community, they're able to innovate and do things differently. During the pandemic, many of them had to do virtual programming. And what they realized is a lot of students needed assistance later in the day, not at 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock, which may be the traditional hours, but maybe they found out that middle school and high schoolers really didn't begin their homework till 7, 8, or 9 o'clock. So they instituted tutoring online help sessions during that time frame. So they are often able to be very flexible to try to innovate and create programs when the students need them. It can also be very cost effective. Having flexible partnerships between the school and the after school can really help meet the needs of some of the local communities, especially parents who are working. And again, connecting with families in a very unique way. And that can be a very positive thing. I know some of the nonprofits that offer after school programming, such as Step by Step, made it a focus during the pandemic to work with parents. They would drop off their packages for the week of after school activities, hands-on learning, and then check in on those parents. Are the children all right? Do they need help in anything? So that was an extra benefit that a lot of schools could not do. Although I do know that Clay County did a wonderful job at offering in their after-school programs times where the teachers could connect with the parents virtually online to just identify perhaps needs that the students might have. So there are great opportunities that after-school programs can do that may make it a little more difficult that a school system could not do. So they have a unique value in that aspect. So when we think about all these opportunities and all these things that after-school programming are doing, what are the results? What are we finding? Well, we're finding out that students who participate in summer programming and after-school enrichment programs often have these outcomes, that they get more excited about learning. Isn't that great? That they enjoy the learning, and that they often you'll see them attending school more often, and that their behavior in classroom is better, and they're making gains in reading and math, that they are improving their work habits and their grades. They're developing a more stronger set of social skills, and ultimately will have a higher graduation rates, which helps our entire state. And they also hopefully will have a plan for their future, that they're not just going to say, woohoo, I graduated and I'm going to work at a low skilled job, but they want to go and perhaps go into the technical field, become a welder, become a plumber, become a hairdresser, or a hair salon, go into higher education, become those doctors, those nurses, those engineers, those scientists, those business people, those social workers, those counselors that we so desperately need here in our state. So combining quality school programming, high quality after school programming can really make a difference in the lives of our students, but also West Virginia as a whole.
We've kind of touched on this a bit, but just to talk a little bit again about complementing classroom learning. Some of the opportunities after school provides in terms of hands-on project-based learning, STEM, arts, music, planning and preparing for college, career exploration, internships, mentoring, service learning and community projects, youth-led learning, social activities, physical activity. As you can see that, after school provides tremendous time. First of all, additional time for learning, but also great flexibility to design and implement programs that best need or meet, the needs and situation of the current location. Just an example, I know that there's a program or was in Greenbrier County. I'm not sure the latest status with COVID, but they, it was based in the high school, and they were had the premise around entrepreneurship. And so they were building guitars and then selling them for the after school program. They were rebuilding cars and selling those. They had the JROTC instructor at the school was coming and doing social emotional learning supports with the youth. They were doing credit recovery. They had partnered with a local culinary organization, and they said they were making a snack every day, but really these youth were having a 3-course meal every day after school, which you can imagine is very helpful and supportive for youth that might not have enough food in the home. And that's not even something that we've really talked about yet. And so you can see and hear about how that program worked to really be creative and thoughtful in how they designed and implemented their program. And, it certainly grew and developed as they were better able to identify the needs of their high school students, but was a very comprehensive program that partnered, was based in the school, had strong community partnerships, and then had that opportunity to provide a lot of supports for students and families. So just a little bit to talk about COVID-19. Our after-school programs have as a strong reach in relationships and a lot of trust in communities. During the pandemic, programs have expanded their hours and services, serving youth remotely whenever programs were not happening in place, in person. They were offering in-person supports to help students oftentimes during what would be the typical school day hours. So maybe they were often helping students complete their academic, support those needs, as well as oftentimes helping them engage remotely on site. So they would be at what you would consider their typical after school program, but during school day hours, and then they would be helping them get on with their teachers, with their classes, which of course then provided some unique needs for programs in terms of having increased access to devices, to Wi-Fi, all of those types of things that they had to work around and kind of quickly figure out how to navigate so that the providers could quickly connect with the schools. Checking in to ensure youth and families were safe and supported, distributing meals, and of course, being open to serve children of essential workers so that families could maintain their jobs and have a safe place for their kids to be where they knew they were getting supports. And then through those academic supports provided, often they could take their child home at the end of the day and not have to try to figure out, okay, I've just worked all day and now I have to help my student all evening with their schoolwork, but they were able to receive those supports at their programs. And so it helped to relieve some of that burden after work hours for essential workers. Programs are cost effective and flexible. I've talked a little bit about that. Our program models make good use of local buildings, playgrounds, community centers, libraries, childcare centers, a variety of places. And then of course, within our school systems too, working with a variety of programs that are school-based or are community-based. You see a variety of mixes. For example, YMCA's that are on site at the Y, or we have programs where YMCA's are in the schools every day after school. Our programs and communities have worked hard to be flexible and figure out how to best meet those needs. That gives teachers and program staff freedom to make more individualized ideas and how they work with students, to collaborate and coordinate supports. High quality after school programs have resources to support students' social, emotional, and mental health, opportunities for outdoor education and active play, which we know is so important for our youth before the pandemic, but especially now. And then, of course, extra hands and tools to help communicate with families and caregivers. Our after school programs, we're doing a lot of, and I know Sherry could talk about this, some of her programs, helping to support parents and families navigate some of the educational portals. They themselves maybe were learning the portals a little bit more than they had previously known them in some cases, and then helping to provide increased supports to families to understand how to navigate and better support their child academically during COVID.
We'd like now to highlight 4 after-school programs. The first one is the Bob Burdette Center in Charleston, West Virginia. They are on the west side of Charleston, West Virginia. And if anyone knows about the west side, it has a fairly high poverty rate. A lot of families a lot of children have been raised by single parents, or perhaps by foster families, or perhaps by grandparents or an uncle or an aunt. So it's a very high need area in terms of additional supports needed for children so that they can overcome some of the barriers to their educational process. So they were receiving this summer the Children Defense Fund Freedom School. It is a 6-week summer literacy and cultural enrichment program. What's so great about this is that it not just engages the children in improving their academic abilities in reading and in literacy, but also includes that family. The families, teaching them about the importance of civic engagement and social action, that they can then go and say, this is what we'd like to see for our community, for the West Side. And the West Side has been very vocal in West Virginia, or in Charleston historically, to speak out and speak about some of their needs and some of the things that they would like to see changed in their community. They also discuss intergenerational servant leadership development and how, as a family, the different intergenerations supports each other, as well as their neighborhoods. And then again, of course, the nutrition, health, and mental health aspect is also considered in this curriculum. The beautiful thing about the Bob Burdette Center is it's sponsored by the Emmanuel Baptist Church, which is on the west side and has been on the west side for many, many years. They have really strong partnerships with the local schools in that area, elementary primarily, the Edgewood Elementary, the Mary C. Snow West Side Elementary, as well as Grandview, which is in just like North Charleston area. They also have good partnerships with the city. So the city is offering them different parks and facilities in the city as well to help develop a strong after-school program. And they're there for the kids. They truly have a heart to serve those kids on the west side. So it's a beautiful thing. If you ever have an opportunity, they have a new director now. It's Sarah Buckaloo. She comes from the Boys and Girls Club of the Salvation Army. So if you ever have a chance to view or tour the sites, please give Sarah Buckaloo a call at the Bob Burdette Center. I'm sure she's glad to show you around.
And we're really excited about this Children's Defense Fund Freedom School they're operating. If you're not familiar with the Children's Defense Fund, this is a nationally recognized program, and this is the first time that this program is being offered in West Virginia. There's a rigorous selection process in order to participate, and a large initiative of this program is for them to have guest readers. So if you want to check them out on Facebook, you can see a lot about the program they're running this summer and their readers, and I know that they would love to have some volunteers if anybody would like to visit.
Another summer program that is highly esteemed is the Energy Express program. It's part of the West Virginia University Extension Service. It's a 6-week summer literacy and food security programs focused on helping students maintain literacy skills. What's really wonderful about this program is they typically not only maintain literacy skills, they actually often increase their reading skills over the 6-week period. It is also an AmeriCorps program, and it's funded at the federal level. But we have the Volunteer West Virginia. It's the Commission for National Community Service here in West Virginia, and they do offer federally funded AmeriCorps programs that can put together a core of minimum of 10 individuals to go out and serve directly with students or within that community around a certain issue. So Energy Express has been around for close to 24, 25 years, and they have a wonderful program where they hire mentors, which are really volunteers through an AmeriCorps program that receive a stipend as well as a living wage for the summer. And they are college students that engage these students in reading and art and drama and physical activity. They sit with them for breakfast and lunch and really engage with the students. I think one of the beauty of this is these children, which are primarily rising first graders through sixth graders, have an opportunity to see a mentor, to see a college student, and hopefully picture themselves there when they're 18 and that they can go on to college as well. Susan, who has worked for Energy Express with WVU years ago, can probably tell you a lot more. Susan, what would you like to add?
I think you hit a lot of the highlights. Thanks, Sherry. But Energy Express is a nationally recognized program created here in West Virginia and hasn't been replicated so far, which is interesting. Some other states have taken certain pieces of it and worked to implement it. But it provides a strong opportunity to help fill the summer gap for youth to practice reading and writing during the summer months and get 2 meals a day. So we're fortunate to still have Energy Express in West Virginia.
Kid it's out of Barber County, and it's there's a World Vision is the national organization that sponsors this. They receive funding from 21st Century funding here at the state, and they work with primarily K through 8th grade, the students in those, and they work to mentor them and to tutor them. They have a strong focus on experimental stream learning. They will bring in the local theater group from Elkins to do fun quality programming with the students, and in fact would offer an educational program during the pandemic through Facebook, and they hired some theater groups to work, and they had great sessions on what was COVID, how important it was to keep your hands washed and wearing your mask. So they really did a wonderful job in trying to reach the students during the pandemic through virtual applications. They also target math and literacy intervention services for students who are struggling, as well as some great social and emotional learning activities that they do. So that's another really great program that's been running for quite some time, at least 8 years, if not maybe over 10 years.
Yeah, and KidReach also is one of the programs that work to increase the services for high schoolers during the pandemic. And I should have looked this up before we joined today, Sherry, but they are also currently involved in an initiative through World Vision that Barber County, as well as, is it in New York City, Sherry, that they're doing that offering of having the virtual books available to increase access to literature.
Yes.
And it's been tremendous. You, I'm sure, know more about that than me.
Absolutely. It's a READ program that they receive funding for, and truly they allow children to access thousands of books electronically. So it's really opened up an opportunity for the students and parents to read together at any time of the day. So it's been a very positive additional resource that an after-school program can bring to a community and to the children and families in that community to help support their academic learning. We also have boys and girls clubs in West Virginia. We're going to talk about the one in Parkersburg, but there's one in Charleston, one over in the Eastern Panhandle as well, one over in Mason County, I believe, or is it Pleasant County? So there are several. The Boys and Girls Scouts, or Boys and Girls Clubs of Parkersburg offer programming from kindergarten all the way through high school. They receive 21st Century funding primarily for their middle school program, and they work with the Van Dever School to offer additional programming after school in the Van Dever School to really help the students there in middle school. I think what is really a couple of unique things about the Boys and Girls Club of Parkersburg is, one, they have a fully equipped makerspace. They have all kinds of really unique equipment, electronics, and 2D and 3D engineering and design, digital photography, textiles and sewing, music making, coding, robotics. In fact, one of the robotics team before the pandemic hit, we're going to go to the states competition. There are lots of opportunities within an after-school program to focus on STEM programming and bring in resources and equipment that sometimes schools just don't have the time to make happen. I do know that during the pandemic, they also put together a surface effort where they made plastic face masks and gave those to local medical organizations, doctor's office and whatnot, as a service project as well. So they have a really unique program there. They also were the first ones last summer to reopen and offer programming. Of course, at a reduced capacity, they could have fewer children there, but they did that, and they did that very successfully, working with the local health department to ensure that their programming would keep the children safe, first and foremost, from pandemics, or and then secondly, starting to engage the children in learning activities and physical activities, and providing them, most importantly, breakfast and lunch and a snack, and also provided a safe place while the children's parents were working. So that was another really determined group who wanted to serve those children and were successful in doing that. Susan, do you have any addition?
No, I think you did a great job with that. They do a tremendous job in Parkersburg providing a variety of resources. I know they have great relationships with their schools there. They worked at the beginning of the pandemic to do some collaboration around technology devices, as we talked about. That can often be a huge struggle for programs in order to increase academic supports. And again, if you ever have a chance to go see their makerspace with what they do there with youth, it's really very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and most all after-school programs, when they come in, they typically feed them dinner or a very substantial snack, and then they usually do some time for homework and tutoring. And then after that, then they have various enrichment programs. And they usually do often a round robin. So 2 days a week, it may be you have your choice of a STEM program or a fine arts program or or a physical education program. I mean, it could be teaching them to play guitars, you name it, they've probably done it. Some of them will do podcasting and Facebook Live shows with the students organizing and writing the scripts. So there are lots of fun, innovative ways that they support learning, because children are writing the scripts, children are making presentations, the children are coding and measuring and cutting or making food through recipes. It's a whole host of different ways that we sneak in that learning and support learning as a whole for after school programs. Let's see if I can find my way back to click this. I have too many screens open.
While Sherry is working to find that, I will go ahead and share that while we've been spending, a lot of our time, a significant majority of our time today talking about what is after school, how does it connect with the school day and support school learning. We know that we have a tremendous gap in order to increase our numbers to serve additional youth in West Virginia. The After School Alliance does a report every few years called the America After 3 p.m. report. This past time, it just came out last November. It was a little bit delayed because of COVID, and they gathered some more information. I put the link to that report that provides West Virginia data. It is a parent survey that the After School Alliance does, but we know that the great thing about what we're hearing from the survey is that parents are satisfied with their after school program and that they're in favor of funding for after school programs. But we also know that with every youth in West Virginia served, that 4 more are waiting to get in. Access to after school programs is limited, and in some, as many of you probably know, in some places it can be quite limited. Also, it's an ever-changing landscape, as you can imagine, with especially with some of the pieces with the federal dollars. But it does provide such tremendous opportunity for us to collaborate and partner, work together, and really increase communications around supporting youth. As partners of the 50 state network, just to provide some information about the network, we provide evidence-based practices from the field of expanded learning programs, help administer and advise on grant programs for after school and summer, can provide data, help identify programs serving the highest needed communities, provide training and quality supports, and share learning and other states from other states. And I want to say too that that slide, we kind of wrote that, Sherry, around the network, but the tremendous supports that Sherry and David provide through 21st Century at the Department of Education. We're very fortunate in our state to be able to work closely together and really try to provide a lot of these evidence-based best practices together, provide increased professional development opportunities for programs, work together to increase grant supports for programs. And so very fortunate to get to work with Sherry and David at the department.
Yeah, I think both the After School Network and the 21st Century Program have really tried to come together along with DHHR and offer things and try to find additional resources, funding, and professional development for after school programs. And that includes not just 21st Century, but also after school programs that may be sponsored by school districts, after school programs that may be sponsored by colleges or universities, and after school programs that are sponsored through child care facilities as well. It takes all of us working together to really support the children of our state.
And I'll add too that we have a session on high quality after school programs here shortly this morning, but you can feel free to reach out to me or Sherry. Sherry, we probably should make a plug, even though we're going to talk about this in the next session. I'd love for everybody to hear about. We have a couple different new partnership opportunities we're doing. One is we are providing a family engagement community of practice around STEM to support our after-school providers to increase family engagement. If anybody wants to email me or Sherry, we would be happy to help get you some more information on that. We are currently recruiting for that and would love to have more people applying. Also, we at the network recently got a grant from the Bureau of Behavioral Health through DHHR to provide evidence-based prevention programming. And I'm sure many of you know that evidence-based is part of the ESSER funding. And so we are offering BOTFN life skills in-person trainings, as well as positive action virtual trainings across the state in the month of August. And we are still actively recruiting for that. And everything is being provided free of charge. So there's no cost to attend the trainings. We're going to provide free curriculum. We just really want to get people trained in additional prevention supports with youth and help to get the information out there. So we would love to also recruit you for that initiative.
We're finally at the end of our presentation, and we will take some questions now. If anyone has questions that they'd like to ask us, we have just a few minutes left. So it could be either in the chat, or let's see if there's anything on the Q&A. Yep, there's nothing. So if you have anything else, feel free to place it in the chat. Well, thank you all very much for attending. I apologize for not for having difficulty with my sound system on my computer. I really appreciate all of you attending and being here to learn more about how after school and school can work together for our students. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.